him better than most people take care of their kids. They changed the rules 2 years ago about what you need to do to have an alligator. I've had him 34 years and abided by all of them and renewed my permit annually as required. I tried renewing it when they changed their rules and had questions to ask. They ignored my emails and phone calls to make sure I did everything right, even though I should be grandfathered in. I will have a court date when they provide it. And so that is where we are, and depending on you, you see it as probably one of two things. This is a man who has a dangerous pet, or this is a man who's fighting to get his son back. But also, no matter where you land on this, I'd love to hear from you in those comments down below. What do you think should happen? What do you think will happen? And then, in huge entertainment news, MrBeast is either killing the old school mainstream model or he has forced his way in. Because you know how for the longest time people would say, like, why doesn't like a Netflix just throw the money bags at him and have him make something for the platform? Like, he's getting more views than the Super Bowl. Well, we've seen online creators get those swings. Odd Ones Out, of course, had a Netflix series. More recently, we learned that Jake Paul and Mike Tyson will live stream their fight on Netflix. But the big news we got today is it's not only Netflix in this game, with MrBeast announcing the massive news that he is bringing a new game show to Amazon's Prime Video. And the stakes are as big and ridiculous as a MrBeast video. He's calling it Beast Games, he's hosting it himself, and he also explained it's going to be the largest game show in history. Over 1,000 contestants, $5 million prize, and many other world records. So just absolutely insane numbers. It also makes me wonder, like, how much is this whole deal? You know, you had MrBeast saying, my goal is to make the greatest show possible and prove YouTubers and creators can succeed on other platforms. And noting specifically, Amazon gave me the creative control I need to try and make it happen. I hope to make the YouTube community proud. You know, that pressure that he's feeling, that is on him right now. He actually talked about it more on the Colin and Samir show, noting that he views this as something that won't change the game just for him, but also the space as a whole.
Obviously, if this show doesn't do well, then it's like, oh, he's just, you know, a YouTuber. You know, he can't. Yeah, but it's not even just me, it's also other creators. Like, it's, I take it very serious. This is why I'm putting so much effort and energy into it, because like, if this flops, then people are gonna be like, yeah, YouTubers aren't capable of, you know, making it on streaming platforms. And I recognize it could either have a massive positive effect and that every streaming platform is gonna be throwing deals left and right at creators, or a negative effect and people are gonna go, if Jimmy couldn't make a hit show, what makes you think you can? And like, that is one of my biggest fears is the inverse, which is why I'm not going to let that happen.
And so saying that he's trying to do this the right way, making it as good as possible, not as fast as possible, that he's not going to just try and cash a big check and run, saying that he wants to really innovate the game show space with his own style and saying it's not going to be like anything we've seen before. And with that, he just kept reiterating that the biggest thing for him was having creative control, right? Not being tied to the demands of the streaming service, calling the shots on his own, which was actually something he really had to fight for.
It's just not fair to the audience, right? They're trusting when they come over that it's content that I back. And like, I just don't care what some exec says is good content. Like, I literally couldn't care less.
And as far as how he hopes this impacts other creators, you had him saying,
hopefully it ends up crushing and then people can go like, look, they trusted Jimmy and look what he delivered. Trust me.
So absolutely huge news, and I wish him the most success with this. Because, well, obviously, this is big for him. I do agree with the idea that this could be huge for the space. A moment in time where there is an even bigger shift towards the idea that these other companies, they are the lucky ones. They are the ones smart enough to make the smart move to bring in an online creator. And not the other way around that, wow, that YouTuber or that TikToker, how the hell did they get that deal? They're so lucky. But also, not to throw extra pressure onto the situation, right? MrBeast is an outlier creator, and if somehow this ended up being a shit show, a failure of some sort, if we're being honest, it would likely close the door on the sort of thinking to bring in online creators, at least with something this big. So, you know, no pressure. Good luck. And then, so if you haven't heard about this yet, it's been more than a week since missing University of Missouri student Riley Strain was last seen in downtown Nashville. He's 22 years old. He reportedly went missing around 10 p.m. on March 8th when he was asked to leave a bar owned by country music star Luke Bryan. And following the timeline, on March 11th, police also shared his photo and description. Then on March 13th, they shared this video from the Nashville's Emergency Operations Center showing their search of the riverbank area near where Strain went missing. And now just today, they shared body camera footage showing Strain's chance encounter with a police officer responding to a vehicle burglary on the night that he went missing. While the accompanying tweet notes that Riley did not appear distressed in that video, we also have some other surveillance footage where that doesn't seem to be the case, with Strain seen stumbling and even falling. And I mean, this case has gotten so big that even Luke Bryan himself has shared a statement on X saying that the restaurant is working with police to provide police with security camera footage, transaction records, and staff accounts. And this is notably the Tennessee Alcohol and Beverage Commission is investigating the bar to see if there were any violations, or things such as over-serving Strain. With Aaron Rummage, an executive at the commission, saying, state law prohibits serving alcoholic beverages to someone who is visibly intoxicated. A violation is a Class A misdemeanor. We have bar staff claiming that he was only served one drink before being asked to leave. And the restaurant statements say their transaction records show he ordered only one alcoholic drink. Though this is still, some have argued that the bar bears responsibility for kicking out an intoxicated person into the street, even if they didn't overserve him. But regarding that, Rummage notes that, quote, there are no specific rules or statutes that governs escorting out intoxicated patrons from their businesses or providing assistance in getting someone home. Right? And so the situation and the case itself is big news on its own, but also a big part of the story now is that this case has attracted a lot of fascination. In fact, so much so that its virality has started affecting the situation. You know, we've seen things like this in the past, like with the case of Gabby Petito, whose death became a national sensation. Right? Certain stories just blow up, even though hundreds of thousands of people are reported missing in the US every year. And so there's this question of, like, with this Strain case, are we seeing something similar? You have TikTok commentary speculating on the case, racking up millions and millions of views. But at least this one guy apparently taking the initiative to reach out to Strain's friends himself and spread his own conclusion that Riley was roofied. Although the latest official update from police says that there is still, quote, no evidence of foul play. But with that said, we've also seen how social media can be useful. With the local newspaper, the St. Louis Star-Times, reporting yesterday that Strain's bank card was discovered on the banks of the Cumberland River. And a family friend telling the paper that it was actually discovered by TikTok users who had taken an interest in the case. With the two women, Anna Clendening and Brandy Bainan, saying they'd been scouring the riverbank for days. But as of right now, all of this is still developing in real time and we don't have answers. But it is going to be interesting to see not only what comes from the investigation and what else do we learn, but also at the same time, how does this continue and grow online? And in what ways, good and bad, will we see those two things intertwined? Because again, keep in mind, as of recording, we have very little idea what actually happened to Riley Strain. And then March Madness is here and it's got people fighting about exploitation of student athletes. Right? Because you have outlets like Bloomberg saying that the NCAA stands to make over $1 billion from the tournament. But the athletes, they don't get a share in that revenue, even though they're the ones doing the work and putting on the show. And with that, you might go, well, you know, what about name, image, and likeness deals, right? NIL. And yeah, it is a huge deal for a number of college athletes. It's made some crazy kinds of money. People like Bronny James having NIL valuations of $7.2 million. Libby Dunn's net worth estimated to be $3.5 million. But the thing is, not every athlete is Bronny James or Libby Dunn. With the New York Times kind of noting that this is where NIL falls short, saying that's an ad hoc system organized largely by supporters of the athletic department that allows some athletes to bring in millions while others make nothing. It's not the same as universities paying athletes they employ, which has brought questions into this debate like, should athletes be paid as employees? Should they have unions? What about pay for play? What would any of this actually look like? And while that's a debate that's been going on for a while, March Madness has absolutely blown it up. You had, for example, a piece from the Daily Beast where they argued that NIL is not sufficient, and they spoke to one former athlete who said, it's everyone saying, yeah, these guys can get paid now, but we aren't getting paid for football or the value we bring through football. We are getting paid for a side hustle that we have to seek out. Right? People like Libby Dunn, they're largely not making money for being gymnasts. Right? She's making money for selling clothes and energy drinks when she's not on the mat. And actually with that, you had Outkick just doing a piece on that, noting that in public view, her role as a gymnast actually falls second to her role as an internet celebrity. So for her, making money comes from a whole separate entity. It's like having a second job. And while hers might be on the more glamorous side, that's not true for everyone. When you're not the biggest of the big names, trying to get an NIL deal can be a grind. With, for example, another athlete telling the Daily Beast, I'm out here hawking chicken for a little bit of cash and coaches are rolling up in Land Rovers. When it comes to the players, the men who actually play and bring in people to buy shit, you gotta go out and get some other job doing promo work or signing autographs and shit. That shit takes time, right? You think anyone wants to spend their time after practice showing up to a car dealership to sign autographs? Nobody wants to do that shit. So with all that, you have places like USA Today saying that athletes should be employees, not only because they, quote, deserve to be compensated appropriately for their efforts, but also because many do not go pro and many don't even complete their degrees. Therefore, their earning potential is often never greater than it is during their time spent as part of powerhouse college athletic programs. You also notably had the New York Times doing a piece on where unions fit into all this, noting, for example, that Dartmouth basketball players just voted to unionize. But you have economist Andy Schwartz saying that more widespread unionization efforts would not look so much like what's going on at Dartmouth, explaining you would have conference-level unions to negotiate the terms of employment and to enshrine in contracts the rights and duties of an athlete. And saying, in my view, the schools would provide the education and the conferences would be employing the athletes to be participants on a television program. And even though the NCAA has been resistant to changes in athletic compensation, the Times talked about an upcoming case that accuses the NCAA of illegally depriving athletes of compensation for NIL use in promotional broadcasting. And that case put the NCAA and its conferences on the hook for $4 billion. And explaining that could bring the NCAA to the table. And the lawyer in the case saying this could lead to the complete transformation of the current structure so that the athletes who generate all the revenue can receive fair compensation for what they are contributing. You know, revenue sharing is a big topic right now. For example, the likes of former Alabama football coach Nick Saban talking about this in Congress recently.
I'm for student athletes being able to share in some of this revenue. And I think the number one solution to all this is if we could have some kind of a revenue sharing proposition that did not make student athletes' employees.
So he also noted that while he supports NIL, he does have issues with the idea of college sports becoming all about income. Right? And actually with that, some have pointed to the fact that a court ruling forced the NCAA to stop investigating booster-backed collectives for making NIL deals with athletes. So, the situation's not going to get figured out today. This is a long-standing debate, but it is very likely we will get more answers and possibly a transformation of the landscape soon. And in the meantime, go Gonzaga. That's a team, right? I don't watch college sports. I know, shocking. The guy who sells a sports shirt does not watch every sport. And then